Join me as I challenge myself to travel back in time to the Roaring '20s and experience life like it's 1920. The Roaring '20s, an era that's always fascinated me, and probably many of you out there too. I mean, who wouldn't want to travel back in time to an age of glamour, jazz, and liberation? It's an era that oozes style and sophistication, and yet it's also a time of great change and upheaval. The 1920s were a complex time, marked by significant social changes that were reshaping the very fabric of American society. Women had just won the right to vote, African Americans were fighting for their rights, and immigrants were flocking to the United States in search of a better life. But despite these progressive movements, economic disparity was rampant, and the gap between the rich and the poor was widening. The wealthy elite lived in opulence, while the working class struggled to make ends meet. Prohibition, which was introduced in 1920, was another major challenge that people faced during this era. The ban on alcohol was meant to reduce crime and improve morality, but it ended up doing the exact opposite. It created a thriving black market, and organized crime flourished. Bootleggers and gangsters like Al Capone became household names, and the speakeasy culture thrived. As I delve deeper into this era, I'm struck by the contradictions that existed. On the one hand, you had people living in abject poverty, struggling to survive, and on the other hand, you had the rich and famous, living it up in their lavish mansions and indulging in extravagant parties. It's a stark reminder that the American dream is not always accessible to everyone. The 1920s were also a time of great cultural upheaval. Jazz music was born, and it became the soundtrack of the era. Dancers like Josephine Baker and Duke Ellington were sensations, and their music and movements captivated audiences around the world. The flapper culture emerged, and women were finally able to express themselves freely, sans corsets and restrictive clothing. Flappers were more than just a fashion statement. They represented a new kind of woman, one who was independent, confident, and unapologetic. They smoked, drank, and danced the night away, defying the traditional norms of femininity. The iconic fashion of the era, with its bobbed hair, short skirts, and exaggerated makeup, was a reflection of this newfound freedom. The music of the era was equally revolutionary. Jazz was born in the African American communities of New Orleans, and it quickly spread like wildfire across the country. It was a fusion of blues, ragtime, and swing, and it was played in smoky nightclubs, juke joints, and underground speakeasies. The music was raw, emotional, and erotic, and it captured the spirit of the era perfectly. One of the most captivating stories from the 1920s is that of the infamous parties thrown by F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, Zelda. Their parties were the stuff of legends, with champagne flowing like water, jazz bands playing till dawn, and guest lists that read like a who's who of Hollywood and high society. One such party, held at the Fitzgerald's Long Island mansion, was particularly memorable. It was a themed party, with guests encouraged to dress up as their favorite characters from literature and history. The party went on for days, with guests indulging in endless champagne toasts, playing pranks on each other, and dancing the Charleston till they dropped. As the night wore on, things got progressively wilder, with guests stripping off their clothes and jumping into the pool, and others getting into fistfights over trivial matters. It was a night that would be remembered for years to come, and it encapsulated the spirit of the Roaring '20s perfectly, a spirit of rebellion, of excess, and of unbridled joy. As I wrap up my journey through the Roaring '20s, I'm struck by the parallels between this era and our own. We're still grappling with issues of inequality, social justice, and economic disparity. But we're also still celebrating the same values that defined the 1920s: freedom, creativity, and self-expression. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating journeys through time.